Hey everyone, welcome to episode 2 of Foreign Objects.
Those
Episode 2, we're doing WrestleMania 2. It's actually episode like 8 or 9 because we had to chop up all our long videos into a bunch of 15-minute installments due to the YouTube constrictions. But we're going to start this one off with a bit of news. We're going to throw it over to WrestleMania 2 later on. It's going to be more fun watching us talk about it than it was for me watching it. And let's start off with AEW Double or Nothing Part 2, right? The second one,
yeah, the
maybe.
second one.
Uh, what'd you think of it? I know you got it on Fight TV or whatever the hell they hawk these things on. Despite doing this show, I don't watch contemporary wrestling ever right now. So you
BR
fill me in
Live, I
on
think it
everything.
was.
Okay.
So yes, I shelled out the $50 to watch this pay-per-view. It was actually a really good show. I didn't think it was gonna be great, but I have nothing to really look forward to nowadays. So I said, yeah, sure, let's buy it. So I bought it.
Sad.
I will say the Stadium Stampede match was actually freaking fantastic. It was about 30 minutes long. So it was a long one, but they freaking crushed it. Like, so many intertwining storylines. They did a great job with that. The Elite won that match. And a couple downers would probably be, I didn't like the ladder match. I thought it was overbooked and just too many things happening at once. And I did not like the Cody Rhodes match either, for the same kind of reasons. Just too much going on at once. It was just hard to pay attention to it. The Cody Rhodes match was slow too on top of that, so that made it worse, as opposed to the ladder match where they were at least, it's a 9-man ladder match or something crazy like that, where there's at least a lot of action going on. So there were some entertaining spots, but I just thought they just booked it like way too overbooked. Outside of that, like I said, the Stampede match was great. I thought the title match, Jon Moxley's Brody Lee, was really good. I thought the females were great with Chris Statlander and Penelope Ford. They had a match, and then how do you pronounce Hikaru Shida versus Nyla Rose, which I really think that Hikaru Shida is a top 5 female wrestler on the planet. She's through the roof great. And that says a lot because the WWE has Sasha, Bayley, Charlotte, Asuka, that group. I think she belongs in that group. I think she's clearly the best female wrestler that they have on that roster. So she should definitely be the champ there. But
better than Dana Brooke?
It's slightly better than Dana Brooke. But
Dana Brooke's like that's my barometer for, if you're better than Dana Brooke, I can probably watch you on a consistent basis. But If you're any worse, I'd rather not. It's the Brooke-meter. So, despite doing this show, I love wrestling. As you know, we've been to a million shows. I'll go to any show today. It's so damn hard to carve out, 10 hours a week or so, not counting pay-per-views, for anything.
It's a lot
to keep up on the business.
And I think one of the nice things I like about the AEW pay-per-view structure is that Saturday nights as opposed to Sunday. I actually like that because Sundays are typically low-key days for not only myself but most people, so you can really dive in, have a good time, order out, do whatever you want to do, and have kind of Sunday to recover from all
that. We're going to hit the news of the week, and then we're going to talk about Mania Dos later, which is actually on a Monday. WWE decided to go.
I did not know that.
Decided to go in the opposite direction that time. One of the many terrible decisions for that show. So we're going to start with the news, and we're going to start with the sad news, actually. We're going to start with Shad Gaspard from Crime Time. Everyone knows that he was his body was found on the beach, died at 39 years old, got ripped under a rip current in the ocean. He apparently, told would-be rescuers, to save his 10-year-old son instead of him, which obviously is goes without saying, pretty heroic. And wrestlers die all the time. They die young all the time. But this is particularly untimely.
It's typically self-induced reasons too.
Yeah, it's not usually. It doesn't usually have this level of, I guess, tragedy might be the right word, attached to it. And it hits a little bit home for you and I because, well, first of all, I loved Crime Time in general when I was kind of getting reintroduced back into the product, I thought Crime Time was one of the most entertaining, probably the most underrated tag team of that late kind of 2000s area. I just thought they did it the right way in entertainment. You know, they were backstage, they were doing killer vignettes and kill, you know, and they took kind of a crud gimmick from Vince, surprise, surprise, and they made something out of it. Shad, you know, the reason it carries a little bit more weight for you and I, we have kind of a tangential connection to JTG, and through that, obviously through Shad, we met him after the show once. I think after he had turned heel and Crime Time split up, and you know, it was just sad to hear because again, the connection we have to that kind of that Crime Time connection kind of that we had outside of the actual show, but just sad to see because, you know, great performer, great entertainer, great. I thought he was a good big man. I thought he had a great big boot. I thought he worked some good power moves. And I won't spend too much time on it. It's a downer of a subject, obviously, but I feel like you got to touch on it. Anything you wanted to kind of throw in there before we move on?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head right there. I think you basically expressed the same feelings that I have as well. Just ditto, basically, just completely ditto. So I think we all we all understand. I think it's obviously tragic and obviously just horrible, and any type of analogy you want to put towards that. So I think you hit it home.
Yeah, you know, it's be interesting to see what they do in remembrance and stuff like this. I don't think they're gonna put him in the Hall of Fame or, you know, announce any tournament after him, but they dropped something on the network. It was like a 12-minute kind of retrospective or remembrance of him. And by all accounts, very well liked in the business, which is a lot. It says a lot when the guys, you know, the boys kind of like you backstage a lot and have a lot of respect for you, because it's the kind of business where that's not always the case. And to the, you know, turning it around, going into the really the news aspect of what's been happening from an on-screen standpoint. We're filming this on a Monday night. Monday Night Raw just started. I'm keeping one eye on it and one eye on this, and it looks like they've got quote-unquote fans back in the arena and the Performance Center. They're actually NXT superstars. Michael Cole said before, right at the outset of the show, or whoever the hell is poorly announcing the beginning of Monday Night Raw these days. They're NXT stars. They were tested already. They went through COVID-19 testing. They all came back negative. And so they're behind plexiglass. It's kind of like a big NHL. I'm sure by the time this lands, people will have seen it. It's kind of like a big hockey arena. And they're barricaded by plexiglass. What's your opening thought on just people physically, souls being there and noises being made?
I'm for it. I'm totally for it. I think if you do your due diligence and you're just putting in basically guys that are already under contract for your company, I mean, you're just like any other company at that point nowadays, where if that's 25% of your workforce and, you know, the regulations now or wherever you are, most places are, you're allowed to have 25% of your workforce in there, then sure, do it. I think the plexiglass is interesting. I haven't really got to see it, but if in my head I envision basically like a hockey arena, it's just now a ring in the middle. That's pretty interesting stuff, and I wouldn't be opposed to them having that going forward. I mean, why would a fan need to reach over anyways to begin with? It completely removes that from even entering somebody's mind. Not that it happens often anyways, but I'm interested in if that were to work. And I mean, in the future, 2 years, 3 years down the road, you probably got some crazy spots through plexiglass if you really want it.
Well, you hit on an interesting spot. You hit on an interesting point where this really could be inadvertently, you know, I mean, everything in the world is going to be different 2-3 years from now. I mean, so many different ways. We'll get back to normal in some aspects and not so much in other aspects. This is just one slice of a very minor slice, but very minor slice of what might not go back to normal. We might be seeing the new normal where, you know, we have these real protective barriers between the fans and the superstars or the wrestlers or the ring or whatever. Like you said, it could be used to further the product. It could be used as a weapon. It could be used as a gimmick or whatever, but also just safety. And it's going to be like that. Even if fans come back, I think you'll see this plexiglass in the next couple of years. They had to do something. The ratings were terrible, and I don't blame people for not watching it. Every time I would tune in, it was so soulless, and it was just looked like a scrimmage, looked like a preseason NFL game or something. I just could. There was nothing behind it. There was no spirit behind it. I'm glad they're trying something. I don't know if this is the long-term solution, but it might bridge that gap until you can bring in a couple of fans here and there. I like that they're trying something. They really had to. And the NXT folks, they're going to do, it's essentially piping in crowd noise, like what FS1 might do when they bring back like sports. It's essentially pumping it in because it's exactly what Vince wants them to do. They're not going to be organic and boo a bad segment or boring. They're not going to chant boring or bullshit or anything. And they're not going to cheer the heel. They're going to toe the company line, but at the same time, it's better than what it was.
No, totally agree. I'm with it. I'm for anybody who just wants to try to progress. So if you are just going to try and you do it safely, I'm for it.
Did you happen to catch The Undertaker, who's been on a media whirlwind ever since The Last Ride came out, the documentary? I think we're on episode 3 now. He's been all over the place. He was doing a podcast with Bill Simmons, about a 90-minute podcast, like a Zoom, whatever. And it's interesting, it's really interesting because Bill, has a long-standing kind of, he was a wrestling fan in the day, and he checks in every now and then. And I think he does good work with people that he's a fan of. And I think The Undertaker is one of those people. And The Undertaker was, he was open and he was revealing, just like he's been the last, like he's been, ever since this documentary came out, really. And one of the things was Bill brought up, it looks like so empty with no people, obviously physically empty, but the product is empty. And Undertaker said, yeah, he said, there's no one more important than the crowd. There's no one, it's like they're the sixth man. It's like they're another superstar. It's like they're feeding, they decide what direction things are going. So to your point, you got to try something. You got to progress forward. You can't just sit there and let it languish and flounder. Hey, AJ Styles traded to SmackDown, which, it matters in the sense of if I turn on my TV on a Friday night or SmackDown comes to Boston, which isn't the case right now, I might want to go because Styles is the best in the business. He's one of the few guys who I will turn on the TV for, or buy a network for, or buy a ticket for it and go watch. Me and you watched the main event, a show in Boston against Jinder Mahal. So that's exactly, I didn't buy that ticket for Jinder Mahal. But he's traded to SmackDown for future consideration draft pick for Raw or something goofy like that. Listen, they never follow their own rules. We talked about this last week. This new rule that, it's not the wild card rule, but it's the one where, you can wrestle on the other show 4 times a year or something like that. What are they doing? I mean, I know they have to do this because the TV companies want fresh faces with the ratings diving down, but can they just do something and stick with it?
The short answer is no, they can't. They're not capable of doing that. And I understand that things change and there are things happening right now in the world that may make you do different things down the road, but I don't know. I think it's just mumbo jumbo, something to put on Twitter. Like, I highly doubt they even have a plan for it. They're all in the same arena anyways. They're not even traveling. It's just, I just think it's just hey, we needed a tweet at noon today. So let's try to drive some people onto the website. Let's try to drive some people onto our social. And I really have no other explanation. Like, is Fox really that pissed off about ratings that they demanded AJ Styles? Is AJ Styles really going to bring that many more eyes to Fox? So I don't even think it's that. I just think they just needed, they just wanted to do something. Here, like, this is what we're going to do right now.
I always wonder when I hear things like this, is there a Fox executive who is also a giant wrestling fan and makes this push? Or, it's not just some guy who signed the contract, who doesn't, who doesn't watch wrestling and said, AJ Styles, there has to be someone. I wonder if that person's job is to watch the product and report back to Fox on changes that might help ratings. I wonder where that push comes from. Or maybe they just say, hey, listen, we need better ratings. The pressure's on you. And Vince says, okay, AJ Styles is going to do it.